Everybody's disappointed. You never want to lose, but it happens in sport. At the same time, we got to keep our focus maintained and not hang our heads too low over a game one loss. It's only one game.
Adversity is sometimes a necessary evil. It just comes in different forms, right? It's one of those things where we know we can play better. And so when you couple knowing we can play better and having the experience of going through some other levels of adversity throughout the season, I think that's what kind of keeps us composed, keeps us calm, and lets us understand, there's still a job to be done.
They got the first game at their home. We got to try to get one. Come out, compete, and win to even out going back home. We got to lay it all out there on the line. We got to play better than we did in game one.
We've talked to you at times throughout this year when the shot hasn't fallen. But I guess when you kind of look back at some of the interior shots, like was it some of their contesting? I know even Drew said, there were some easier shots or bunnies that even he missed. What were they doing interior wise? I guess that made it difficult to kind of finish around the rim yesterday.
I would say for the most part, they contested the majority of the shots. I feel like we still miss a lot of makeable shots that we normally make, but they did a great job, like I said, contesting every shot, making sure nobody was left wide open or anybody had an easy look at the rim.
On the other side, when you guys have talked a lot about you're making Kevin and James and Kyrie's shots difficult and being tough there. With Joe and Blake, I guess to a degree, how did you feel you guys contested them or tried to make things tough or maybe didn't, when you were able to look back at how they were able to get off?
Yeah, I think you have to give credit to them. They played really well, I think. But at the same time, we got to do a better job of containing everybody, not just focus on, KD, James, if he's playing, Kyrie. We got to maintain and guard everybody as a team, as a unit, and not just say we're going to give up open shots or live with, Blake shooting threes or Joe driving to the basket or shooting pull-ups or anything. We got to guard everybody because everybody out there is a threat for them.
Eric Name?
Now that you've done it for a game, how do you feel like Joe kind of moves different than Duncan? From just observing, it feels like Duncan is like kind of like constant movement and Joe's a little bit later movement, but I'd be curious kind of what you think.
No, they both move a lot without the ball. I think one of the differences is, Joe's working on his game a lot where he could put it down the floor a couple of times for pull-ups or good to the rim. He's a strong finisher also. So just got to take him serious. He's not just a three-point shooter. He's a very, very good three-point shooter, but he also can do a lot of other things on the court, which helps them out a lot.
Offensively in the first quarter, it felt like you guys were playing with like a lot of purpose, getting to the spots that you wanted. Why do you feel like that kind of like went away as the game went on?
If I had to answer for you, I don't think we would have done it in the game. We just got to do a better job of, executing and playing with purpose, just playing smarter.
Do you feel like they like to really push the pace? You guys really like to push the pace. Do you feel like there's like a preferred tempo for this series for you guys? Like, is it better to play faster or slower against them?
Just finding what's right at the time. That's, what sometimes it's tricky. It's so great about this game. So many things can change with far as the tempo, the rhythm of the game. Just got to do a better job of, trying to play at our speed and not feel rushed or just out of character at times.
Brian Lewis, New York Post.
Hey, clearly everybody knows what kind of player James Harden is individually, but I'm curious what in your mind is the difference in how they play with him, and you guys game plan for a whole week, I guess, to face him, versus what kind of team they are without him. How different are they? What do they do differently?
I really can't answer that question because we haven't played with all three of those guys at the court at the same time. So, you could watch it on film, you can watch it during the game, but you really don't have a real feel for it unless you go up against them. We haven't yet.
Christos in Greece.
Hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Speaking about your performance in game one, do you feel that you have an extra motivation, an extra chip on your shoulder about the game two? How you handle games like this?
Just come out, compete, and win. They got the first game at their home. We got to try to get one. And we got to try to get this next one for sure to even out going back home. The same approach, but just know we got to lay it all out there on the line. We got to play better than we did in game one.
And how could you describe the mood in the locker room ahead of the game two, and how big is the determination in the team about game two?
The mood is good. I mean, everybody's disappointed. You never want to lose, but it happens in sport. But at the same time, we got to keep our focus maintained, not hang our heads too low over a game one loss. It's only one game. It's the first of four, so just got to come out and play better.
All right, thanks, Khris. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon, Pat.
Good afternoon, Eric.
Adversity is a word that we've used throughout the season, right? Like, a 5-game losing streak, whatever it may be. You guys had a tough game one against the Heat, but you won. This from the outside would look like the first bit of real adversity, right? Like dropping a playoff game. That's actual adversity. So I'm curious, how do you feel like the locker room has responded, and how have you guys, managed? We just talked to Khris. He was like, no, mood in the locker room's good. Like it always is. Like, we don't want to drop a game, but we're okay. So I'm curious for you, just kind of where do you feel like the team's at?
Yeah, I mean, I think, adversity is sometimes a necessary evil. It just comes in different forms, right? So to your point, I think last night's game felt similar to game one in Miami. Difference being, I think the Brooklyn Nets are a better team than the Miami Heat were. So it was harder to keep them under 100 points when our offense wasn't necessarily flowing and things of that nature. I think the reason the mood in the locker room is still good is because, after watching film and after, going over some stuff, but seeing parts of last night's game and almost basically the entirety of last night's game, it's one of those things where we know we can play better. And so when you, kind of couple knowing we can play better and, seeing that obviously it's a long series and, keeping everything in perspective and having the experience of going through some other levels of adversity throughout the season, I think that's what kind of keeps us composed, keeps us calm, and lets us understand, there's still a job to be done.
What do you feel like the offense kind of lost as the game went on? It felt like first quarter you guys got to your spots. I thought the execution was really good, and then that kind of dissipated as the game went on. Just what did you see that the offense maybe lost its way a little bit?
I think we had kind of a lack of balance between, one-on-one, playing together, passing, moving the ball, attacking versus knowing when to slow it up and execute. I just think there were some things offensively where, look, we were in attack mode a lot of the night, and I don't think that's ever a bad thing. But then I think it's about stepping back and understanding, you want to be in attack mode instead of 90% of the time. Maybe it's, 75, 70% of the time where you can still attack in the half court, but you're executing things, the ball's moving, it's a little more crisp, and we're getting, better shots, more open shots that, we've been getting throughout the season.
Lika Andrews.
Hi, Pat. I'm wondering, Mike James isn't necessarily a player that's always on the top of a scouting report, but after a performance like last night, does your approach materially change towards a Mike James, towards a Blake Griffin, if they're kind of putting those different guys in those sorts of positions?
I mean, it's definitely something you have to talk about, but, he's a great player. I was able to see him when I was out in Portland. He'd come, through in the summertime and play with us. And he's been a great player his entire career, and he's getting a great opportunity here. And at the end of the day, it's the NBA, it's playoffs, everyone can kind of play. But the knowledge base of, where his comfort zones are and knowing your personnel, KYP, as we call it, like, you just kind of got to touch up on that a little bit more. And then for us, I think it's mostly about team together, that type of defense that we play. We know that they have a lot of individuals that can score the basketball, Mike James, Blake Griffin being two of them. But for us, we've always kind of built our defense off having each other's backs and helping each other and not leaving guys on an island. And I think we can do a little bit of a better job to make it feel like it's 1-on-5 as opposed to 1-on-1 or 1-on-2.
Thank you.
Brian Lewis, New York Post.
Kind of in that vein, I mean, you guys had, I guess, a week of preparing to face a net team that had James Harden. I'm curious how they play differently. How do they change as a team when Harden's not there?
I mean, obviously James, KD, Kyrie, those are the guys that people have talked about all season with the Nets and how they play when the three of them are there. But I do think, they're a great team with, and they're a great team without, one of them. And I think the ball moves a lot, when there are two of them on the floor, one of them on the floor, that second unit. If you kind of looked at it throughout the course of the season, a lot of times James played a lot with that second unit. He was able to kind of control the game a little bit. He was able to move the ball. He was able to get guys like Joe Harris and them involved. And now they're just kind of getting to that, in my opinion, a little bit quicker. And then you got guys like KD and Kyrie that can obviously take you isolation ball and play the games that we all know they can play. So I'd say the preparation is still for a great team. It's no real different. The only difference is, there's maybe a little bit less fouling going on.
Christos?
Hello, Pat. Hope you're doing well. What you need to improve on defensive end, and how important factor of your game is the aggressiveness on defensive end tomorrow?
I think defensively it's playing together. Kind of like I said, I think we've built our bread and butter on having each other's backs on the defensive end. You got to make them feel uncomfortable, and no matter who's in front of you, whether it's Mike James, Blake Griffin, Kevin Durant, Kyrie, whoever it is on their team, you want to make them feel uncomfortable. You want to make them feel some physicality, some pressure. But you're able to do that a lot better when you have the knowledge that there are four guys behind you that are going to do the same thing. And even more importantly, the offensive guy who has the ball looks at the court and they feel like it's crowded. They feel like there's a lot of, resistance that's going to come their way behind you. And I think that's where we've done a great job of, when we've had great defensive games, and we've had those games like the first game in Miami, we had each other's backs. We were the guys in the team that was a little bit more competitive, a little bit more tough, and a little bit more together when it comes to moving in unison on the defensive end.
All right, thanks, Pat.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, Bud, it's good to see you. I'm wondering if, when you're preparing now, not knowing James's status, do you prepare for both scenarios? Do you prepare as if he's playing, so that if he doesn't, that's just a roll with the punches surprise? What are you looking at?
Well, we spent a week preparing for, the three guys, Harden, Durant, Irving. So I think there's been a lot of time put in that. And, so a little bit more time, today for if he does not play, but some of both, and a whole week of preparing for Harden.
Thank you.
Yep.
Jim Ozarski?
Mike, I know you talked for better part of a week about making things tough on Durant and Kyrie, but after looking at film, what did you think of the contest or the efforts on Joe Harris and Blake in terms of, since those two, did you think they had open looks? Did you like the contest there? What did you kind of think on their shots on the perimeter?
Yeah, no, I thought overall our defense wasn't as good as it needs to be. And, we can be better on Durant. We can be better on Irving, but we've got to be just as conscientious and much better, whether it be Griffin and Harris. Some of their other guys played well. And we just got to be significantly better defensively.
Along those lines, I mean, Blake had said after the game that, I guess they were not surprised with kind of the lack of switching, if you will, or things of that nature. I guess I know you won't divulge a game plan going into game two, but I guess as the game's unfolding and you're seeing some of that, was there thoughts of changing coverages or schemes or throwing in some zones, some switches? How did you kind of see that unfold and make the decisions you did in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, really as the course of 48-minute goes, you end up doing a little bit of everything. So there was, we did not play any zones. So,
Right.
But we did some or all of those, some more than others. We need to figure a way just to, be better, guard their whole group better. And schemes are important, but, I think we got to be better individually. We got to be better collectively.
Eric Name?
Hey, Bud, Drew had mentioned trying to keep Kyrie and KD out of the lane a little bit better. What do you feel like is the key to doing that?
Yeah, I mean, you got to guard them one-on-one, keep them in front. I think Irving, is very creative. Got to the paint, some penetrating kick, and Durant, some tough shots. So, I think both those guys are very good. We got to be better on them. I think, both individually and collectively, we got to be better.
I know with the Heat series, we talked a lot about cuts. I was surprised a little bit with some of the late cuts that the Nets made yesterday to get open, kind of find some space. How do you think you handled those things, that off-ball movement?
There were some, examples where we need to be better. Kyrie kind of back cut, gets it and makes the corner three for Harris and things like that. So I think just overall our activity, we've got to be better defensively.
In the first quarter, it felt like you guys had a lot of purpose offensively, that you're kind of getting to the spots that you wanted, executing in the way that you wanted, and then that dissipated as the game went on. Just what did you see that you were so good in the first quarter and then that kind of went away as the game went on?
Yeah, I think that, we need a little bit better balance offensively, a little bit better spacing offensively, playing with each other a little bit better, and do some of what we did in the first quarter. There's a lot of good examples of, like you said, whether it's getting to our spots, working the offensive glass. We weren't able to sustain that for the whole game. So we got to try and do that in game 2.
Brian Lewis is the New York Post.
Hey, bud. I had 2 quick ones for you. You talked about basically having a week-long game plan with Harden and now having to game plan again without him. I'm curious, how are they different? How do they play differently when they don't have him versus when they do have him? And going back to the switching, you didn't switch, if I remember, you didn't switch a ton in the recent 2 games against them where Harden didn't play. Did that play a significant role, I guess, in you not switching a ton the other night? In other words, is that predicated on whether he's out there?
I'll try and go first question first. I think, they're Durant and Irving, I think, are probably just maybe more aggressive, more, I don't want to say ball dominant because, I thought they moved the ball well. I thought they played with each other well. But I think those 2 guys can just take on a more commanding role, if and when Harden doesn't play, and they've played a significant number of games without him. So I think they just have that confidence and comfort just to be, more ball dominant. And the switching predicated on whether Harden plays or doesn't play, I would say it's more no, that's not kind of what predicates, but certainly Harden's a guy you got a game plan for. He's a big part of the game, and he has a big impact, but I don't think it's as simple or as much as at least I think I heard you say or ask.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thanks, bud.
Thanks.